Isabel Rosales joins us live right now from Washington, D.C. Isabel, thank you so much for joining us. Isabel, as we're telling our viewers, very, very early projections coming in that we know are going to change within the next few hours. Still, what can you tell our viewers?
Hey, Toya, and actually in the last couple of minutes, major updates here. CNN calling a couple of House races. So far, the Republicans, the GOP, have picked up 3 House seats. That's a big deal. That's because now they're only 2 seats away from having majority over the House. So that's a crucial and new update, Toya, here in the last couple of minutes. And as you said, there are a handful of races that will determine the future of the Senate, the House, of state governments. 36 states are electing a governor. 6 states are at the center of the political universe. 5, which Biden picked up in 2020. They are Georgia, Wisconsin, Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, plus Nevada. And then 3 states which Senate control may hinge on. That's Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Nevada. So looking at Pennsylvania, Toya, the Democrats there have had a slender lead. This is the most expensive Senate race in the nation. Millions of dollars have been poured into this race. They are Democrat John Fetterman up against his opponent Mehmet Oz. Fetterman's a stroke survivor. He portrays this non-traditional appeal, often campaigning in a hoodie. You can see his tattoos visible. Supporters of him have been more enthusiastic about voting for him than they have been his opponent, Mehmet Oz. But Oz has that name recognition. He's a celebrity doctor, and a trouble spot for Democrats are that voters have said that they believe more that Oz can fix their economic situation than Fetterman can. Then there's Georgia. It's a total toss-up there between Democrat Raphael Warnock and Republican Herschel Walker. Now, Warnock is the first Black senator from Georgia, and he notoriously helped Democrats gain control of the Senate back in 2021. Walker, his campaign has been rocked by scandals, allegations that he paid women to have abortions, of which he has denied. Despite that, he has maintained very, very much in this race. And then finally, Toya, there's Nevada. That is locked in a dead heat. That is incumbent Democrat Catherine Cortez Masto versus Republican Adam Laxalt. Masto is the first Latina senator for the state of Nevada, and she is also one of this year's most endangered incumbents. Laxalt joined a lawsuit back in 2020 to challenge the state's election results, and he won a Trump endorsement because of that. Toya.
Okay, Isabel, the next question is more of an explanatory one for our viewers here in India. Can you explain the difference in domain of the Senate and the House of Representatives?
Right, and I can tell you a little bit about what the concerns are if Republicans take control of either chamber. It would essentially doom Democratic priorities. That's a concern of Biden. That is a concern of Democrats, that essentially it would be harder to pass legislation, right? Climate change, abortion access, voting rights. Other things that are on the chopping block include maybe billions set aside for the IRS that they recently put into place there, and that stream of money that's been going into Ukraine as well. We spoke with Kevin McCarthy, who is poised. He's a Republican. He's now poised to perhaps take the job of Nancy Pelosi, who's the Speaker of the House currently. We spoke to him about that, and he said regarding Ukraine that he simply cannot write blank checks, but that money still will go forward. So with Republicans in charge of either chamber or both, another thing that's of worry to Biden is potentially impeachment proceedings, to which he said, I know they'll impeach me. I don't know what for, but I know they'll do it. Many of Kevin McCarthy's members have been publicly calling for this. So the bottom line here, Toya, is that it would make governing for Biden a lot harder if Republicans take control of either chamber or perhaps both.
Okay, and next, Isabel, a tricky question to possibly answer right now, but could you walk us through what the results in the next few days, the results coming out today, could mean for 2024, where you will, possibly on one side have Biden and again, possibly you could see Trump. Is that what could also be decided within the next few days?
Right. And you mentioned, I believe, 2024. So President Biden says he intends to run. He turns 80 later this month. So he's the oldest serving commander-in-chief in the nation's history. So if Democrats lose badly, that could boost calls for Democrats to really look beyond Biden for a 2024 nominee. But I also have to preface that with the fact that midterms are routinely bad for presidents. That is the norm. That is not the exception. So we're going to have to see here in the postmortem what comes after these days, how Biden's camp handles this, looking forward into 2024. On the flip side, I believe you mentioned Trump there. He hasn't officially come out saying that he will run for the presidency, but he has very heavily teased that and teased November the 14th or 15th that week to announce a very, very big decision, a very, very big announcement, he said, coming from Mar-a-Lago. And you can bet that Trump has been heavily involved with this midterm campaign trail. We've seen him in Pennsylvania. We've seen him over in Iowa. He started in Iowa, which is the start of the presidential run. So that further proves how he's really gearing up a springboard there into a presidential run. So he's been heavily involved in this. And for him, it's important these Trump endorsements, these Trump candidates to be successful, because that is tied to his power within the Republican Party, his power as a kingmaker. So if his endorsement is powerful, it says something about him as a candidate, could perhaps swat off other people he sees coming up to the plate, trying to perhaps also gear up for a presidential run, like Republican governor in Florida, Ron DeSantis, as well as his former vice president, Mike Pence. So the more powerful his endorsement, his name, his recognition, his power and influences within the Republican Party, the more that can parachute him toward being the 2024 nominee. Toya.
Isabel, thank you so much for that context. For our audiences, already in the early ballot, 45 million Americans have cast their vote. That's a record-setting number, and critics expect and analysts expect that yesterday and in these hours, as polling has closed, America might have set another midterm record. Now, CNN's Isabel Rosales brings you this report. This is from Capitol Hill. She takes us through what's at stake this season. Take a look.
Voters making their voices heard by the tens of millions. Polls nearing their final hours across the country. Top of mind?
The economy is definitely a big one.
What's really important to me is basic human rights and how our government is protecting them.
Candidates themselves hitting the polls and greeting voters. The stakes couldn't be higher for both parties.
Whenever you look at the Senate, I agree it's going to be close. Everybody has to get out and vote and participate this election cycle because of the importance of it.
My goodness, 2022 is perhaps the most important election of our lifetimes.
Republicans just 5 seats away from a House majority. And it may come down to a handful of battleground states to decide the future of the Senate. The GOP just 1 seat away from flipping control. And the potential next House Speaker already laying out next steps.
I think the first thing you'll see is a bill to control the border. First thing we're going to do is make sure an economy that's strong.
Looming in the background, contentious court fights with more than 100 lawsuits filed pre-election, many in battleground states.